Welcome to another edition of Spookular Bells. We're here on the franchise. I'm your host, Daniel Scarenberg, of course, and over here is Henry. P- uh, uh, I don't have a pun. I don't have a pun. Papali.
Very, very hard to rhyme my name with almost anything.
Is it?
I mean, I think so. You know, it is
Crap Polly.
Thanks. There you go.
Did you get called out on the playground?
Actually, no.
That's amazing.
No, people weren't that creative. I just got what was the worst? Henrietta.
Creative? You don't have to be creative. I had a friend in high school who used to call me Dan Aaron Fat.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
Kids
how
are so
creative
great.
kids are.
Kids are great.
Mm-hmm.
No, I got Henrietta. That was like the big insult, and I guess I got
Just
off
changed
easy.
it into a girl name.
Right.
Right.
Typical kid thing.
Ooh, we're talking bullies today on the franchise. Spooky stuff here in the month of October. Welcome to episode 100 and...
75.
Sure. Ooh, that's like sort of one of those fake anniversaries.
Yeah, it's a pretend anniversary.
Yeah.
I would like to say ahead of time, everybody, that I went ahead after over 3 years of recording. I did finally need a new microphone. I got great said microphone. It was over $70 with tax. It's a piece of beautiful equipment, and I didn't anticipate the technical complications of hitting a few buttons, and so this episode will not sound as good as it should be. But subsequent episodes will.
Sometimes I wish I had launched this podcast with somebody that knew anything about technology, like literally anything at all.
I could give voice commands to the on-demand
Henry,
voice.
maybe you should take like a continuing education class about podcast producing. Right? Go to
What do
some
they
sort
call
of
that? Is
technical institute.
Yeah, like a DeVry.
Yeah, DeVry would be good, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
You go to Trump College.
Yeah, there you go.
Trump
Yeah.
University, excuse me. They were a little more highfalutin.
Excuse you. Yeah. Okay.
HP, we're covering 3 Exorcist movies today, so let's get this shit going. I gotta tell you, I'm thankful that the Exorcist franchise is not as long as some of our previous October franchises, because boy, oh boy, are these movies ever boring.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And we had to watch the same boring movie twice this week.
Very strange, because, I did not take you literally when you said last week, and I believe even the week before, and off air to me, you kind of muttered sort of offhandedly, it won't be that hard. It's the same movie. And I was like, yeah, I know what he means. Like, it's the same kind of movie. I did not know.
No, it's the same movie.
It's the same movie.
It's like a purer version of that show, The Chair, that was on Starz. This was a show, a reality show a few years ago that I was obsessed with, where they took a screenplay and they had 2 different directors make a movie out of the screenplay. And one of them turned it into a sex comedy this was a YouTube guy named Shane Dawson. He made it into a sex comedy called Not Cool. And then this indie-minded female filmmaker made it a more tender indie movie called Holidaysburg. And so it was the same script, but they brought him into like 2 different genres. I almost feel like this was a more pure version of that, because Rennie Harlan and Paul Schrader literally made the exact same movie.
Yeah, this was something that I had never heard of or never known, and I had clearly seen before the beginning. That I have seen. I had not seen Dominion.
Full title, please.
Oh, Exorcist, The Beginning, and Exorcist.
No.
Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
One of the worst titles in the history of cinema.
It's so
Dominion,
bad that when it...
prequel to The Exorcist. Can you imagine that? If it was like The Matrix Reloaded, sequel to The Matrix.
I couldn't really believe that actually is what came onto the title card, because I know that that's the title, but I thought it was one of those kind of iffy things.
Like we're letting you guys know that this is a prequel to The Exorcist, sort of like X2 X-Men United, right?
Yeah.
Like it's called X2, but by the way, gang, it's an X-Men movie. Check it out.
Right. It was very strange, but yeah, I'm glad that there was only 5 of these. Probably could be less.
Could be 1, frankly.
Yeah. Well, of all the horror franchises that we've done in October, I would have to say I think this franchise definitely just needs the 1. You know?
Yeah. Okay. So of the others, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and let's include Child's Play because we were going to do it this October.
Right.
Which of those would have benefited the most from only being one movie, and which one of those benefits the most from being a franchise?
Okay, easy for one of them, in my opinion.
The one who benefits the most from being a franchise is Friday the 13th.
Yes!
Yes, of course.
Yes, that's like, I don't know, that just popped in. That's just no contest.
Part of that is that it's the only of the first movies in the franchises that's not a 5, not a classic, like, and frankly doesn't even capture the essence of the franchise because Jason's not in it.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, he is, but only a little boy in a canoe at the end.
True. I would have to go. Actually, I've been thinking about it right here. I would have to go with Halloween.
Halloween. If that was just one movie,
it's good.
Even with the cliffhanger. Although Nightmare on Elm Street had a half-hearted cliffhanger too.
Yeah, but it's not. It's such a complete movie that it's only a cliffhanger. It's a great cliffhanger. It doesn't need resolution.
No, I agree. It was never meant to have resolution.
Yeah. All the other things you mentioned, Elm Street and Child's Play, at least 1 or 2 of those sequels work, and in some cases are better or as good as their predecessor. But Halloween,
I agree, Henry. But next year we'll be covering Halloween 12. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Really? It got greenlit?
Henry, not only was it greenlit, but David Gordon Green and Danny McBride got a green light to complete a trilogy.
Wow.
So 2 more movies. The next one's called Halloween Kills.
All right. Well, I liked it. The reboot.
I really liked it, but I do think you're right. Like that, there never needed to be more than 1.
Yeah.
They're just out there wasting their lives. Sequelizing shit that don't need sequels.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
All right, Henry, let's talk about The Exorcist III so that we can then get to the weird prequels. So this comes to us 13 years after Exorcist II.
Right.
And we decided... So this was actually conceived right after Exorcist II came out. Like they were going to make this as like an apology for Exorcist II. And William Peter Blatty wrote it who wrote the Exorcist novel, wrote this as a screenplay, and it was conceived for William Friedkin to direct. Then William Friedkin bowed out. He decided that he was done with The Exorcist, as understandable.
Yeah.
And William Peter Blatty adapted his screenplay into a novel, which he called Legion. Then years passed, and Morgan Creek got the rights to The Exorcist, and they decided they wanted to adapt now that novel back into a movie. All right?
You with us, everyone?
Yeah. So William Peter Blatty adapted his novel adaptation of his screenplay into yet another screenplay, and the film was offered to John Carpenter to direct, who said, no, of course not.
Is that exactly how he responded?
That was his response, I believe.
Yeah.
I have it on tape here. So William Peter Blatty gets the chance to direct it himself. So Morgan Creek and their infinite wisdom were like, let's get the novelist. I mean, come on. It would be like if fucking Jaws for the Revenge was directed by Peter Benchley. Get
Well,
out of here.
they did it once in '86 with Stephen King, and it didn't turn out too well that time. So I guess no one was paying attention to that.
What if
little
Jurassic World was directed by Michael Crichton?
Sweet.
Yeah, you'd be into that shit, huh?
A Time to Kill, directed by John Grisham.
Oh my God, has John Grisham ever directed anything? I would love it.
I bet. I feel like
He
would.
and David E. Kelly should collaborate on some shit.
I think James Patterson is adapting something for Netflix with David Fincher.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, why didn't they just let E.L. James direct the fucking 50 Shades movies?
Well,
They let her do everything else.
That would have been great. Yeah. She can't direct because when she's trying to direct and talk, she has that ball in her mouth and the dog collar being pulled on her.
I also hear she didn't fit in the director's chair. Sorry.
You just meant it wasn't her forte. That's why.
That's right. She didn't fit the role. Yeah.
No, she didn't fit through the door. All right.
Okay. Exorcist III was released August 17th, 1990, and boy, does it feel like a late August release. Budget of $11 million, box office of $39 million. It came in at number 48 at the box office for 1990, right between two other classics, made a little bit less than Jacob's Ladder. And and a little bit more than Navy SEALs.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Chucky Sheen.
Love him. He should be in an Exorcist movie. I could see him with like a priest's collar. You know, he's actually perfect for The Exorcist because the plot of every single one of these movies is you got a priest who's lost his faith, and then he runs into some demonic shit, and he gets faith back.
Kind of like the Charlie Sheen story.
Nothing happens in these Exorcist movies. It's just like a priest, and then he's got to deal with some weird shit for 2 full fucking hours, and then he gets his faith back, and he walks away into a plume of smoke.
I particularly found of the 3 of them, without giving too much away, I found 3 to feel the longest.
It's slow going. And, you know, there are people out there that love this movie.
I know.
People on the internet were excited for us to talk about this movie.
Yeah, I know. And I could kind of see why it has, like, a little fan base. There's a certain tonality and a police procedural aspect to it.
And it's a little on the weird side.
Yes.
Whereas, like, some of the other Exorcist movies are just gross. This one has some surreal shit in it. So that's enjoyable, and it's good as sort of a Brad Dourif delivery system.
Very much so. He's the yeah.
But this movie's boring, gang. It is boring.
I really agree with you. I had seen it before many years ago, and I have to say that one thing I did notice, one of the reasons why the movie's boring. This is how boring the movie was. I was thinking of, while I was watching it, what specifically in it is boring, obviously besides the story. And I'm looking at the movie, and I'm thinking, well, the visuals aren't too bad. Blatty doesn't really do much with the camera, but it's not terrible.
Lot of 2 old, doughy guys chatting in a room.
Yes, but then, like Eureka, it kind of hit me. A big contributor to this dullness is a massive figure with the name of George C. Scott.
I kind of disagree with that. George C. Scott's having a ball. And you know what the fun thing about George C. Scott is? You never know when he's going to raise his voice. It just happens sometimes.
He screams so much in this movie and so out of fucking nowhere. It's like he's redoing the scene from Strangelove in the war room where he just trips and falls over himself over and over.
It's like, his wife asks him, like, I mean, this is a theoretical. He plays a priest, so he doesn't have a wife. But it's like, how was your day, honey? And it would be like, it was pretty good. I went to the cafeteria. I had a ham sandwich.
He plays a cop, not a priest, but that's a good
Is he a
call.
cop? Oh, that's right. He's the fucking cop from the first one. That
He's
dude died.
best friends with Damian Karras. Remember, he says in this movie, "We were best friends."
Yeah, they have like 2 scenes together. That first one.
He lives a sad existence.
I guess. I'll tell you what. This movie, speaking of George C. Scott, was nominated for a Golden Raspberry.
I thought you might say that. Yeah. Let's. Which Golden Raspberry was it nominated for?
Worst actor, George C. Scott.
Here we go.
It's the raspberries, no razzmatazz. All we're lacking is a little pizzazz, 'cause it's the golden raspberries. It's the worst of the worst, not the best of the best. It's pizzazz gone raz.
I feel like Brett Ratner wrote that song.
He was an influence on the composer.
I bet. So George C. Scott lost, unfortunately, the worst actor Razzie to Andrew Dice Clay for The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Hey! Hickory dickory dock. We love him, our old friend, the Dice Man, here back on the franchise.
Oh, welcome, Dice Man. Hickory dickory dock, I lost to George C. Scott.
I know. I had someone talking to me recently about, like, cancel culture, like, no, comedians can't say anything anymore, because everyone gets so easily offended. And he said to me, like, where would the Dice Man be today? And my response was like, yeah, he wouldn't have a career, but is that, like, a bad thing? You're acting like that's some fucking tragedy that Andrew Dice Clay wouldn't be a successful comedian.
It's not a loss, so it really doesn't matter, especially if he wasn't funny really in the first place.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I have my own feelings on cancel culture, but whatever,
Okay.
He certainly wouldn't exist.
Well, we wouldn't exist if people heard the show. I've already fat shamed tonight.
If we had any listeners besides our core 14 people across the world.
Yeah, gang, don't tell anyone about us.
Yeah, do not. I don't care what country or continent you're on. Just keep it to yourselves.
Okay, so we're not going to do top 10 lists. There's just too much to get to. So let's start in on The Exorcist 3. Ooh, you know what? This should be Exorcist 3D.
Oh, that would have
right?
been...
There's some surreal dream sequences. I would have liked that.
That would have even been harder to sit through, but I'm surprised they didn't cash in on that. Yeah.
All right, so George C. Scott, he's a cop. He's the cop from the first one. And this is another movie where, like, there's really no plot. Like, nothing that bad is happening. He's just, like, ripping open old wounds for no reason.
Yeah.
But he's a faithful cop. He's friends with a priest, right?
Yeah, he's friends with Father Dyer, who was the character in the original, who is like best buddies with Damian Karras and like helps him and all that.
Who could care? I mean, if you're seeing Exorcist 3 in 1990 and like you haven't seen like The Exorcist in a long time, are you ever going to remember these two characters?
I mean, I guess only fanboys.
Nobody. There are no fanboys in 1990.
No?
I don't think there really are. I mean, I guess there are probably people that read Fangoria or whatever.
Yeah, dude, come on. That's always been there's always been a fanboy.
But this is a mainstream movie. This has an $11 million budget in 1990. That's like an actual movie. No one's. If you think of The Exorcist, you think of Linda Blair. You maybe think of Burstyn. You think of Tubular Bells. You got to hear that, which he did use. I was impressed.
Yeah.
And you think of the demon voice, and you get a little bit of that in this movie. But it's like, what is this movie? It takes place in like a psych ward, which is already annoying because the last one did too.
Yeah, that was such a unique psych ward in the last one that we spoke about at length that didn't really occur to me because it wasn't really a psych. This is like your old classic white-walled psychopathic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest psych
Yeah,
ward.
yeah. It looks like fucking, Girl Interrupted or whatever.
Yes.
And it's just boring. Like, people are popping up dead in this psych ward, and people are dying outside, right? And it's like the MO of the Gemini killer, which is like an old serial killer played by Brad Dourif. And then he like gets to the psych ward, and Father Karras is there, even though he died in the last movie. But Father Karras is in 2 movies ago, and he's just like, his face is like flipping back and forth between himself and Brad Dourif. I mean, the thing about these fucking demon movies is nothing makes sense. There are no rules, and
Right.
so like you're just watching whatever fucked up shit they have to throw at you for 2 hours, and then the movie ends.
It's very
They're
true.
nothing. These movies are nothing.
Well, they don't have any rules, and even unlike, they don't even make the effort of other sometimes supernatural movies that try to establish their own rules to their credit. But these ones, they have none. I mean, and it's kind of funny because I was thinking about that part of the first Exorcist when Karras asks Linda Blair to, undo the straps if you're so powerful. And she says that would be too vulgar a display of power. Well, not this time. Like, what happened to that humility? That's out the window for Exorcist III, beginning, Dominion. Now it's like we're throwing people against walls and we're doing all kinds of vulgar displays of power. So
that's more in the prequels than it is in this one. I feel like Exorcist 3 ultimately is a pretty subtle, quiet movie. But that, it's trying so hard to be a real piece of cinema like the first one was, rather than the second one. It's so much a course correction from the second one that it ends up being fucking boring. I gotta say, I liked watching The Heretic more than this.
I did not. This was, I actually am giving them the same rating, but I did enjoy this one more than The Heretic, despite George C. Scott being worse than Richard Burton to me.
I disagree. I think George C. Scott's much better than Richard Burton.
Okay, yeah. I just didn't see these two guys fitting into either of these movies, which I found so...
But I don't want to watch either one of them. Like, I don't understand why... This is another case, Henry. We just talked about this with Terminator, where it's about female leads mostly. Like those first 2 movies, Ellen Burstyn, Linda Blair, and Louise Fletcher are the leads of those movies. And then in these, we're just casting old, doughy fucking white guys. So in Exorcist 3, I gotta sit through George C. Scott for 2 hours, and in the prequels, I gotta sit through fucking Stellan Skarsgård for 4 hours? Are you fucking kidding me?
Okay, now Stellan, as you very well know, fits into these movies.
I hated him.
Better.
I hated him in those movies.
Oh, I disagree with that. I don't agree with that.
He's not a leading man. Are you kidding me? You're launching a new chapter in a horror franchise. You're like, oh, let's get the mean teacher from Good Will Hunting.
In his homeland of Sweden, he was a leading man.
Get the fuck out of here. Those Skarsgårds are character actors. They're not even character actors. They fade. They blend into the background. They're good. But Stellan Skarsgård should never be more than 5th build in a movie.
I think that's very harsh. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend him about this particular movie, but I mean, when I look at
these particular movies, you got to pluralize it.
Yeah. I think he's totally fine. I think he's good. I mean, I didn't have an issue with him. I felt like we're not there yet.
We're talking about Exorcist 3.
We're already that. Yeah, George C. Scott just did not belong in this fucking universe. It's just so alien. It does not look right. It just looks so bizarre, and he sounds bizarre, and his cadences are weird, and I don't get it. And it's just so slowly paced, especially with these murders. There's like this ripoff of the Zodiac idea.
You never even see any of the murders. Like,
No.
Give me a fucking crime scene. Like, the whole movie is just people telling George C. Scott things. Like, by the way, there's another murder. Thanks.
He's never there. He always shows up like afterwards, and after it's been a pretty examined crime scene. Like when the kid dies, he shows up and the body's already covered in a white sheet. And then when the priest dies, he shows up and the body's already covered in a white sheet. How long does he take to get to a crime scene? Is he at the movies? Is that what's going on? Is he seeing It's a Wonderful Life and then he goes to the crime scene?
By the way, he goes to the movies with his priest friend to see It's a Wonderful Life, and they have a conversation. It's a Wonderful Life versus The Fly. Those are their two favorite movies. Where do you land on that?
Well, I assumed that they were speaking of the Vincent Price.
Definitely not.
Okay, so they're talking about the Cronenberg.
I really
Fly.
think they were.
Well, then I got to go with the Fly on that one, being Cronenberg being right. If we are comparing It's a Wonderful Life to the Vincent Price Fly, I don't know. Those are going to be fun to do. Is that going to be included when we do The Fly?
Yeah, of course, because that has a sequel, and then the Cronenberg one has a sequel too.
You know, the original Price one had a sequel.
I think so, right?
I don't know. It might. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, so they have good taste in movies, obviously, classics. He said he's seen It's a Wonderful Life 26 times, and I got to be honest, so have I. And that's not because I wanted to.
It's just always on Christmas.
Yeah.
Of course. I've seen it a bunch too. So going back to that kid, I loved the way that murder was described, but we never got to see it. You know, they said he was beheaded, then crucified on a pair of rowing oars, and then his head was chopped off and replaced by a Jesus statue's severed head done up in blackface. And I'm like, yeah, show me that. That's a great image. Why am I hearing about it? Films are a visual medium.
I mean, I don't know what's more offensive in the movie, like that murder or the blackface makeup there. I'm not sure, but it's rough going there on that murder scene. That is an elaborate murder, almost as elaborate as the one done in the hospital by an elder, presumably channeled by Brad Dourif through an elderly person to drain every drop of blood perfectly into vials. We don't see that either.
Yeah, you know, the Pazuzu has some sort of like Freddy Krueger powers in this. He's like reanimating people. I feel like we should have seen a scene where like you know, Father Karras was being like lifted by the marionette strings from the third Nightmare movie.
Yeah. No, Pazuzu is very creative.
He's getting more creative, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, all that time lying dormant, I think it can't help being Pazuzu. You're running through ideas in your head. You're like, how can I make the next one crazier?
What? Where? I mean, where does Pazuzu go? Like, he's apparently the spirit of a demon that is like, in the first one, it makes sense, okay? Like, we don't know where he came from. Apparently a board game. But he's possessing this young girl, all right? That's a simple plot to follow. This girl's possessed. We got to get this demon out of her, all right? Yeah. Then we get to the heretic. It's like everyone's just sort of haunted by what happened, and he seems to now be possessing the house.
Yeah, and insects. We seem to be able to fly with the POV of a locust.
Oh, that's right. The locust thing was weird. And
I'm assuming his powers are almost like Iron Man's suit, where it has to like regenerate if it gets like damaged and rebooted. So Pazuzu kind of has to go slowly, so he can do a locust, but he's not quite up to regenerating the brain cells of Brad Dourif's brain, which we get a very long explanation from Brad Dourif.
Every explanation is long. I feel like William Peter Blatty wrote 20-page conversation scenes of just exposition for this movie.
I mean,
I would love to see Pazuzu, by the way, like a scene maybe at the start of an Exorcist movie, a prologue, where like Pazuzu's back in hell, right? And he like goes up to Satan and he's like, "I tried again. I possessed a little girl," and Satan's like, "You couldn't even possess a little girl." I imagine Satan to be sort of like
an effeminate Brit.
Yeah, like a very fey kind of.
Very fey dandy. He's a fop.
He is a fop. I picture him with like a cigarette holder.
Yeah. All right, with his legs crossed and like a throny kind of velvety Davenport. Yeah, sure.
Maybe a cape.
Yeah, a little cape. And therein lies another rule breaker. That's not. They say they explain it, but I don't buy it. To me, Pazuzu is the devil. That's it. But
no, Henry. You think Pazuzu is the literal devil?
He is Satan. It is Satan. She says it. Linda Blair says it in the bed. She says, "I'm the devil." And that's all I need to hear.
Yeah, but you don't know if she's just like fucking with them. She also says that she's Karis's mom.
Well, that's an obvious fucking impersonation. I don't get into all this spiritual hocus pocus.
No, I think Pazuzu is one of many demons from the realm of hell.
It's more fun to just believe it's the devil himself. I mean, if it's just Pazuzu, it's far less threatening.
But devil, to me, it holds like greater meaning. Like, to me, if you're gonna make a movie about the devil, he's got to be like taking over the world.
Well, end of days. I mean, I think normally that would be correct, but in this one, they're showing that the devil may just not be quite as powerful because he's compelled by the Father.
I think this is small potatoes for the devil, man. This Pazuzu, he's nothing but a henchman.
Is that it?
Yeah.
He just keeps failing all the time. He's constantly failing.
Yeah, I think Pazuzu is sort of like the... God. I don't know, the Dr. Claw of the Hell Realm, or like the Team Rocket from Pokemon. I feel like at the end of every movie, Pazuzu's like, "I'll get you next time, humanity."
The fade away of the mic. Yeah, I mean, I like the Dr. Claw reference since I understood it. Yeah.
Sure, but I just know, like, in Pokemon, at the end of every episode, Team Rocket, like, literally says, like, "We'll get you next time! Team Rocket's blasting off again!" And,
Yeah.
I know, have you ever watched anything Pokemon-related?
Why the fuck would I have?
Because it's great?
No. And when I was living in New York, I remember that whole fucking thing where you had to find them and all that shit.
Oh, well, that sucked. Yeah, that was awful. But, I watched the cartoon back in the day. I saw Detective Pikachu, Henry.
I believe you.
Yeah, it was bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know, shocking.
Tell me more, Pazuzu. Tell me about your latest failure.
Yeah. Well, I was stuck in this house.
He has a totally different voice when he's talking to Satan. He's like, he gets like a little deeper, more masculine, and he's just kind of like, all right, look, I figured the weakest link in the chain would be an old killer. I was wrong again, boss. I fucked up. I fucked up, all right? I tried a girl twice, and then let me go to Africa, see what I could do there.
I gotta get out of D.C. They have a very good priest system down there. These priests are smart. They seem to know the ways of the supernatural.
I didn't know they worked together with the goddamn D.C. Metro Police. How would I know they're so close? All right, you expect too much of me.
Yeah, Pazuzu needs to get his ass to like Alabama or something.
Oh my God, he'd be no resistance.
He
down
could
there.
do some damage.
A lot of damage, man. Just go down south of the Mason-Dixon. He'll be in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, why don't they? Why don't they do that? Like Zool and Ghostbusters. What's he doing in New York in that refrigerator?
Yeah,
Open up a portal in a refrigerator in like Oklahoma.
and it'll be fine. There's so much hate to feed off of. You could just you won't have to do anything. You got everything down there. Sexism, racism. It's a bonanza.
Oh, you got that up here too. You got everything in New York City.
No, just down there. It's only confined down there.
Oh, great. Okay, so what are we going to talk about now? Could we talk about George C. Scott's Dream?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing you see in the dream is he's walking down a long hallway and there's a bunch of angels, and you get a close-up of one of the angels, and it's Fabio.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
It's a romance novel cover boy Fabio, and I had a question about this, Henry. Do you think, was Fabio famous in 1990? Was this a Fabio cameo? Or was this just like, we need a very angelic-looking man, and so they cast Fabio?
All right, I can only rely at this point on what I recall. I don't remember Fabio being anything until like 92, something like that, 92.
When was the Grey Poupon commercial?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean,
right, because that was the height of his popularity. I feel like Fabio's popularity ran from Grey Poupon all the way to hit in the face by a bird.
Yes, I was just going to say that. I don't remember being a kid and making like Fabio jokes. So if I was 12 when this came out, I don't remember ever referencing fucking Fabio.
I did a lot.
And I was Mr. fucking reference point Spade, David Spade wannabe, Dana, I Dennis Miller wannabe at 12. So I did never remember Fabio being a thing. So I would
Henry,
imagine...
I'm looking at a Grey Poupon commercial from 1988. Okay, so he might have been in it by now.
He's probably like a recognizable but not completely laughable cameo at that point.
I think that's right. I think you're right, Henry. That makes sense.
On the other hand,
yes,
I had a T-shirt of the next cameo of this guy,
Samuel L. Jackson.
No,
because Samuel L. Jackson was there. Did you happen to catch that?
Well, here's the funny part. I read going in that he was going to be in it. I happened to see that he was going to be in it, but I missed him. He's the one I missed.
He was playing what appeared to be a blind and deaf guy. He's holding a cane and he's wearing glasses, and he's just like sort of sitting there like yelling.
Okay, no, I did see that is who I thought, but I did not. It did not look like him to me at all.
It looks like him from like Do the Right Thing.
Okay, wow.
Or Amos and Andrew.
I knew that. I think I was reeling from the Fabio, which I didn't know was coming, and then the next one, which I was going to say as the T-shirt I had when I was 12 of the New York Knicks is
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Why was Patrick Ewing in The Exorcist III? That was mind blowing.
It was really mind blowing because. As a kid, I had a lot of favorite basketball players, but in my top 4, he was definitely one of them.
If you grew up in New York, Ewing was the guy. He was the star player. He was number 33. You'd get upset about his jump shot, but he was still exciting and a live wire, and he led the team to the 1994 finals.
Yeah.
Anyway, exciting stuff.
I even went to his Wikipedia page, and I wanted to see if and there's like a 2-second mention of it. So I don't know if he was a big fan. Maybe William Peter Blatty is a Knicks fan.
Yeah, maybe. It's one of those things where in dreams, usually like there's something in there that doesn't make sense, and that might have been what he was going for there, just like the random element in this particular dream.
Extraordinarily generous of you. Yeah, but possible. Yeah,
and he's playing an angel.
Yes,
he had wings. There's also a lot of tarot cards, which is just the laziest way to show that supernatural shit is happening. If I never see a fucking tarot card, as long as I live, I'll be very happy. And also a bunch of dwarves, because it's spooky and weird. There must be dwarves involved.
Right. Well, they're because there's is that because they're spooky and weird in real life or what? What's the story behind that?
No, I just think it's like out of the ordinary. You know, like they could put an albino guy in for the same reason. Ooh. You know, at least it's a better use of dwarves than Joker.
Hey! That episode isn't up yet.
We haven't recorded it yet.
No, and I don't want to know your opinion yet.
Fine.
God damn it. All right.
Fine. Okay, so back to the hospital. George C. Scott's wandering around. You know what the best part of the psychiatric hospital was? Was that one old dude? Like, he was just this like old crazy guy who went up to like the receptionist and just like opened his coat and flashed his dick.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's that old guy who's in like everything where they require a scary old guy. I think he's in like Pee-wee's Big Adventure and shit like that.
I'm not sure I knew who he was.
Yeah, I've seen him before. There was one very cool visual touch I liked at the end. There was only really two things in this movie I liked. One of them was Brad Dourif. I think he was great, even though his monologues, there were two of them, and they were really long.
And you know what's great about those monologues? Both of them were about how he's looking for a new body. And I was like, God, Dourif's always just monologuing about trying to find a new body.
Great point. No one's ever happy in a Brad Dourif body. He's all right. What's the problem? Just stay where you are.
Yeah, Brad Dourif looks fine.
He does.
I feel like he fixes himself up, Dourif.
He cleans up nice.
He cleans up well.
He's a handsome fellow when he feels like it, yeah. But still, no demon wants to be in there. Pazuzu or what's the Chucky?
Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah. But what's the voodoo chant? I was going to say it, which we hear 300 times.
Oh, you know, give me the power, I beg of you.
Nobody's happy in Billy Babbitt's body, but anyway.
I also liked I thought the woman crawling on the ceiling was creepy.
That was good, and I was actually impressed by that because of the year and presumably the limited experience of William Peter Blatty pulling something like that off.
Sure, but he had a crack team behind him.
Yeah, he sure did. Literally a crack team. They were in D.C. Okay.
I want to say I think that the ceiling lady was ripped off by Buffy.
Oh.
There's a season 5 Buffy episode called Listening to Fear that had an almost identical effect. I really think that that they were inspired by The Exorcist III.
Oh, okay. It's possible. I also liked very much a visual towards the end in the cell where George C. Scott does a lot of listening. He probably took a few cat naps in those takes. I can just picture George C. Scott in the middle of Dourif talking.
No, come on. George C. Scott is an active listener. Like, they cut away from, like, Dourif monologuing, and George C. Scott's just sitting there fucking intense. Like, I have things to say, and I'm being held back.
Yeah, General Patton is not. I don't think he's in. I don't know. But no, there's a scene when the ground opens up, and this very cool, and I mean this genuinely, a very cool, like, bas relief type of thing comes up. You know what I'm talking about with like these statues?
Bas relief? What the fuck are you talking about?
Like a statue, a bunch of people painted like statues, like almost like out of a Gustave Doré etching, and they're like reaching up from hell. It's something like out of Dante's Inferno. Do you not know what I'm talking about at all?
Well, I know Dante's Inferno. I was lost on the Doré etching that you apparently expected me to know about.
I do. You know him. I've showed you his stuff before. I have a bunch of his books. But like it's like the kind of the classic like people in hell with their mouths agape, like coming up through the floor. There's like a whole bunch of them. You don't remember this?
It's called the ground.
Okay.
Not the floor.
Great. Really, really good. It was the floor of the cell. That's good.
Okay. I kind of know what you're talking about. I've seen it in a museum.
Okay. Anyway, it's a very good visual for you listeners out there who do want to subject yourself to The Exorcist III.
Yeah, and then there's people out there that love this movie, but I gotta say, don't watch it. I don't think it's good.
I agree. I don't think it's. See, we are going to differ on what we think is obviously worse because I think you got some enjoyment out of the hilarity of stupidity of two, The Heretic. But this one I do think is a better movie. But
I agree, but that doesn't necessarily make it a watchable movie, Henry. I actually think
agree.
The Exorcist III is a much better movie than Exorcist II: The Heretic. It is a classy film. It tells a complete story. I understood what was happening like 85% of the time.
Yeah,
And and I thought George C. Scott was fun. It had some fun cameos. Fabio showed up, Samuel L. Jackson, Patrick Ewing. How about Kevin Corrigan as an altar boy?
oh my God.
How
yeah.
fucking long has Kevin Corrigan been acting?
Dude,
I think he's a demon.
Dude, that was my first thought when I saw him. I was like, well, surely that's not Kevin Corrigan.
I feel like he was like 18 in like the early 2000s.
When Buffalo
66.
thank you, Buffalo 66 came out, I was like, wait a second, that was like his first fucking movie.
That's what I thought.
That was like 8 years later.
Oh, that's not true though. He was in oh no, that was after this. Never fucking mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was so bizarre. Is he ageless? Does he have a pact with what's going on?
He looked exactly the same in this movie. Like he looked like he was in his 20s in this.
Oh, absolutely. And he must have
I think he was in his 20s for like 30 years.
Dude, when he was in The Departed in 2006, he looked exactly the same as he did in
He
this.
was in fucking Friends with Money in 2006 playing a dude who like works at a video store. And like he sold that. He seemed like a dude like just out of college working in a video store. That made sense.
Well, same with Departed and same when he played Goon in Buffalo 66.
Same when he was the fucking, the weird uncle in Grounded for Life.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Grounded for Life.
You ever watch that?
Yeah, that's the show about the kid who's gotten some trouble from his parents, right? And so he's just grounded.
Stop. You don't know that show? It's he and Donal Logue are brothers. And it's about Donal Logue's family. It's a pretty good sitcom.
The Tao of Steve.
Exactly, the Tao of Steve.
That was in my Boxo videos. Didn't do so well on a rewatch.
No, it's not that good. But I love Donal Logue. He was just on that show Stumptown this week, and I was into it.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right, and so back to what I was saying.
Yes.
The problem with this movie is it is a full 2 hours and it is boring. And that's the problem with all of these movies. They're all 2 hours and they're all slow. And the only one that earns its length is the first one. I have that problem with The Heretic, too. Like, I want to recommend The Heretic to people that like fun movies, but it just goes on for... They're all 25 minutes too long. Every single one of these movies.
Yeah, and even I have to say, I will watch it again because as I said prior, I did not finish it, but the director's extended cut of the original Exorcist is too long. That was one of the things that taught me to.
There is a director's cut of Exorcist III too, and people recommended that I watch that, and part of me wants to because it's supposed to be better than this one, and maybe my problems with this movie will be solved. But having watched Exorcist III in this form, I'm so reluctant to watch it again in another form.
I'd be curious to see what kind of fat they cut out, but if they just added more, I'm really not interested. And I don't know if George C. Scott is still just waiting.
I know that the exorcism at the end of the movie was demanded by Morgan Creek, the studio. He handed in an Exorcist script with no exorcisms in it.
Right.
And then Morgan Creek, as a studio, had the gall to ask them to put an exorcism in the movie. It's like one of the few cases where I find myself siding with the studio. Like, yeah, it's a fucking Exorcist movie.
Yeah. That was one of the only parts of the movie for me that was actually a little bit engaging. I mean, it wasn't original, but it was nice to see our friend Jason Miller for a little more, just essentially redoing what he did in the first one.
I thought he was bad in this movie.
Oh, I didn't. I mean, he's barely in it.
I know, but I thought he wasn't good with the time he was given, and I read that he was like really badly alcoholic by this point.
Is that right?
Yeah, and apparently
Oh,
there was supposed to be more of him in the movie, and they just kept giving his lines to Brad Dourif because he couldn't deliver them.
oh my God.
Hmm.
Okay. Wow. Every once in a while on this show, that's an eye opener, dude. I didn't read that. That's terrible. That's
Yeah,
sad.
I agree.
And that might explain, actually, though, that might explain some of the, maybe it was a little unintentional, some of the Brad Dourif length of the monologue.
Yeah.
It wasn't his lines. It might have broken up that pattern of monotony if it would have gone off and on.
I think so too. Henry,
Right.
what do you give this movie?
2 stars.
Same. Who's your MVP?
Brad Dourif.
I'm not going Dourif. As much as I loved him, Henry, we didn't talk about my MVP. I loved Scott Wilson in this movie. And
Okay.
talk about a guy, I mean, from Kevin Corrigan from Exorcist III to now looks like he's aged 2 years. Scott Wilson looks like he's aged 120. I mean, come on, like look at him as like Herschel on The Walking Dead or whatever. He's
Yeah.
he's like a young man in this. It's like watching Jonathan Banks in his early roles. Oh, I'm finding out now that Scott Wilson's dead. So
You didn't know that?
excuse me. Yeah,
Oh,
I forgot.
I knew that. I was just waiting. I thought you were going to say that. Yeah.
Leukemia. God, tough way to go.
Yeah, it is.
All right, but I loved him in this movie. I have nothing but good things to say. I thought he was very funny. He's playing like the head of the institute, and he is just like this. It's a weird, twitchy, funny performance. And I took a screenshot. I posted online. My favorite moment in the movie is there's a scene between Scott Wilson and George C. Scott in Scott Wilson's office. And Scott Wilson has a painting of himself behind him in the office. And that made me laugh really hard.
I like that. That was good. Yeah, I forgot about that. They actually show him kind of pulling back and admiring it. He's just kind of staring at it. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call on that. That's a good call. He's a devious as a head of an institute. He pulls it off. He's a good actor, so it's not too cliched coming off. Yeah.
Who's your LVP?
All right. George C. Scott.
I knew you were gonna say
down.
that. No, I'm gonna go with Nancy Fish as Nurse Allerton.
Oh, she
was like this elderly nurse that kept popping up, and I don't
But
know.
she's
what
not
she
even
was
elderly.
No,
She's-
that's the thing.
yeah,
I think that
yeah.
was a choice by the
Yeah.
actress, where she was like, "I'm gonna play this character older than myself," and it came off really weird. It was like fucking Judith Light in Transparent in the middle of this movie for no reason.
Well, I feel like it's what's her name in real life? Nancy Fish.
Nancy Fish is the actress's name.
Well, if I may be so bold, she kind of was put in there to be a red herring. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely, yeah. She seemed like creepy. She might be
Right. But you didn't get my joke. See, the fish was a red herring. That's the
Oh,
type of
kill me now.
was a red herring. All right. Yeah, Nancy Fish.
Okay.
Not good. Not good.
You have a superhero count?
Oh yeah. Just 4.
Oh, okay. God, you had me worried.
Well, Sam Jackson, of course, is Nick Fury.
Oh, God, of course, right?
There were 1,000 cast members in this. This was fun. Scott Wilson was in Judge Dredd.
Sure, why not?
The first one with Sylvester Stallone, because he was around for the second one. He played Pa Angel.
I don't know. I watched that movie like recently, and I don't remember that.
Okay. Brad Dourif, as we may recall from our very first coverage of the first Child's Play movie, Brad Dourif was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. playing Thomas Nash. And then finally at the very end, we have a character named Father Morning, who I believe was the guy they brought in for the reshoots to do an exorcism. He's played by an actor named
Nicole Williamson, right?
Yeah. Nicole. He played Cogliostro in the 1997 classic Spawn.
That's like a major character. I remember him. He's like a demon. I mean, he's in a lot of makeup, but whatever.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, great stuff. Let's talk about these fucking weird prequels. I'm excited to do it. So, what happened with this was Morgan Creek again, in their infinite wisdom, decided to develop an Exorcist prequel. Now, one Exorcist prequel. They wanted to make one movie. All right? So they developed a script by William Wisher Jr. and Caleb Carr. All right?
Great names.
Those are great names. William Wisher, he was like a guy in the 90s, right? Didn't he maybe have a credit on Terminator 2 or something?
You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
He's
and Judge Dredd.
Yeah, Abyss. Okay, a lot of stuff here. Yeah.
So that's this guy. And then Caleb Carr, I guess, wrote a draft. He, these days, he's working on that show, The Alienist, on TNT.
Oh, all right. I see that. Yeah.
I think that was a miniseries. And so they developed this script. Morgan Creek was happy about it. They hired Paul Schrader to direct it. He directed the script that they gave him. And then after Morgan Creek got a look at the movie, they were like, this is slow and boring, and we can't release this. So they shit-canned the entire movie. All right, they'd already spent $30 million on it. Decided they were going to spend a further $50 million to reshoot the entire movie with Rennie Harlin.
Now, I need your help on this one. Has something like this with this exactitude ever happened in cinema?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I figured this was pretty unprecedented.
I was obsessed with this at the time.
Okay.
I read like the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and shit, and this was like a big story in the trades at the time, and I was so fascinated this was happening. And so I actually bothered to watch these when they came out, and unfortunately had to rewatch them for the podcast.
But did you see either of them in theaters?
I saw Exorcist the beginning in theaters. Dominion was barely released in theaters. I was working at Blockbuster at the time, and I rented it when it came out.
Okay. Yeah. These spanned a big period of my life, so even though it was 1 year, a lot happened. I was in college when the first one came out, and then I was in New York when the second one came out. I don't remember these coming out at all. So the fanfare that was given all this, I guess, I mean, I had
the
no
only
idea.
people that cared were Hollywood insiders, Henry.
Like yourself, yeah.
Myself.
Yeah, I mean, because I was pretty up on this shit, but maybe on the page of wherever it would have been, I just saw Exorcist, and I was like, next.
Oh, going back, one thing I forgot was that John Frankenheimer was actually supposed to direct it, and then he died and was replaced by Paul Schrader.
Why would he die when he knew he had to do it? I mean, what the fuck is that about? You know, talk about like zero commitment, you know?
Well, look, this would have been a blemish on his record, so let's feel happy for him.
Wait a second, Reindeer Games. This could have been a comeback for him.
That's a fair point. I mean,
sure,
this was supposed to be a comeback for Rennie Harlin, who before this point was not doing so great. He had done Cutthroat Island, which was the least successful movie in Hollywood history. And then Long Kiss Goodnight, which didn't do so hot either. Deep Blue Sea was a little bit of a comeback for him, but then he followed up with Driven, the Sylvester Stallone movie, which tanked. And so, like, this was supposed to be his comeback, and didn't really work out that way.
Yeah.
So Rennie Harlin comes on. He's going to reshoot the movie with an additional $50 million. They rewrote the script. Alexi Hawley was called in to rewrite the script. He's a TV guy now. I think he might have created the show Castle. Is that right?
Oh. So he's doing okay.
Well, I mean, sure. That was a successful show. It wasn't very good. He wrote for Castle for a long time. He did not create it.
Okay.
He did create the current show The Rookie, which has the dude from Castle in it.
Okay. All right.
So he rewrites the script, adds a lot of blood and guts and gore and gross, and Rennie Harlin signs on to direct the Alexi Hawley script, and it finally gets released August 20th, 2004. Collectively, these films have a budget of $80 million, but $50 was allotted to the Rennie Harlin version, and it ended up making $78 million at the box office, which isn't horrible, but it's not so great either. It came in at number 72 at the box office, made a little bit less than Spanglish. Classic Sandler drama.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I saw it in theaters, and it made a little bit more than another movie I saw in theaters, which I love. You Got Served.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
You Got Served, maybe my favorite of the dance genre. The modern dance genre. It's not competing with Breakin'.
What about Bring It On?
I don't think of that as a dance movie. I think You Got Served I prefer to Step Up. I like Honey, but I think You Got Served is better. It's better than Stomp the Yard, these kinds of films.
Okay. These kinds of films. I do understand. I take thy point. Yes, yes.
Okay, so, it was nominated for a couple of Razzies. Can I hear the theme again?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Thanks.
I don't mind. Let me just find it here. Actually, it's right here.
It's the raspberries, no razzmatazz, all we're lacking is a little pizzazz, cause it's the golden raspberries, it's the worst of the worst, not the best of the best, it's pizzazz gone
Right?
Yeah, you were going for the out of breath thing there. Sure.
I thought it sounded good. Leave me alone.
I was still smoking at the time, so that was a big deal to hold my breath that long.
Oh, yeah, congrats. Now he's vaping. All right.
It's better.
Exorcist the beginning. So we're going to talk about the Rennie Harlin version, which was made second but released first. That's what we're talking about now. In fact, we can kind of combine them. I'll say that Dominion.
Really? I mean, we can if you want. That's all right with me. But
I don't want to.
I have a distinct difference of opinion between them. But that's okay. We can do it together. It's kind of going to happen, I feel like.
Yeah, I just feel like it's going to come up. So Dominion
right.
Prequel to The Exorcist by Paul Schrader, the great writer of Taxi Driver and Mishima, the director of Mishima, and what else? What other classics? First Reformed, of course. But, what are some of his old... I'm a fan of his film Touch with Skeet Ulrich.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Affliction, of course. Autofocus is great. Light Sleeper's pretty fun. Cat People, American Gigolo, Hardcore. What a great filmmaker.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, me too. So he decided he's making this Exorcist prequel. His version, which was made first, was released May 20th, 2005 on a budget of $30 million. It was only released in 100 theaters and then released to DVD. It ultimately only made $251,495 at the box office.
That's really unfair.
It came in at 294 at the box office that year, between Happily Ever After and a film called Gay Sex in the 70s. Let's find out what these both are. All right, Happily Ever After is it? It's not even coming up. I mean, is this a real movie?
I don't know, but the ranking of this movie is sort of like our ranking in podcasts in China.
Yeah. And Gay Sex in the 70s? What's that?
Probably a documentary, right?
You think so?
No. Could be a feature film. I don't know.
It is a documentary, only an hour and 7 minutes long, about gay culture in New York pre-AIDS.
I was just going to say, what's it about? Is it about gay sex
It's
in the
about
70s?
gay sex in the 70s, frankly.
Okay. Well, then good for its title.
Yeah. Okay, so Paul Schrader was, he lost his cinematographer to other projects. He lost his post-production team, and Morgan Creek only gave him $35,000 to finish the movie that he had started to make. And
I mean, this is a raw deal, man.
I know. I mean, and it was supposed to be called Exorcist the Beginning, but the other movie took the title, and so they had to come up with something else, and somehow they came up with Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
Look, neither of these movies is a fucking standout masterpiece. I'll give it that, but I definitely liked one more than I liked the other.
Dominion's better. Come on.
Yes.
I mean, look, it's not.
I
It's
didn't know if
not
you would say
good.
that.
It's not good. Neither of them are good, but Dominion, I would say, is fairly significantly better.
I think Dominion is much better. I mean, Dominion, it's weird. It's a weird thing. For me, I feel like Beginning is really, really over the top, overwrought, and it doesn't really pull it off. Like, there are some things in there that are just, and it goes way too fucking long.
They both do.
Yeah, they do. But I think James Darcy is a better Father Francis than Gabriel Mann.
I disagree.
Oh, look at that, folks. Darcy has more to do because he's given a heel turn.
Oh, that's right.
He gives a cool explanation of why they are in this specific spot they are in.
Is he an actor?
James Darcy?
Yeah.
Dude?
I mean, who is he? I feel like that was another problem I had with these movies. It's just like Stellan Skarsgård's the only actor that anybody knows.
Oh, that's not true. You also knew Bricktop. You recognize Bricktop from Snatch?
No, I didn't.
Really?
No.
Alan Ford? I believe
Oh,
his
James Darcy. Right. He's fucking Jarvis.
Yeah, dude. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, and the Agent Carter and
right, and Broadchurch. All right, it's all coming back to me. I do know this guy. All right, but anyway, Exorcist the Beginning. It starts Cairo, Egypt, 1949. Everything.
No, different years.
Yeah, different years. That is weird. Why was that decision made?
I don't know. I think the Beginning is 47 and Dominion's 49.
Dominion. No, Henry. Dominion is 44, and then we cut to 47. I wrote down the years, and I think what they were doing with Dominion was they wanted World War II to still be fresh in everybody's brains. Like the characters, because a bunch of the characters had been through the Holocaust.
Well, that's correct, but I mean, then at 47 and 49.
Fucking, can we leave the fucking Jews out of these stupid Christian movies? Because in Exorcist III, there's a moment where someone's talking about rabies, and they make a joke that, rabies, that's like a Jewish priest.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next scene, someone is talking about, Jews are fucking crazy.
Yeah, I forgot about that. George C. Scott says, "You are a racist."
And then in both of these movies, we're dealing with Nazis. Yeah. Leave us alone. These movies about your own dumb mythology.
Listen. Catholic guilt runs raw, runs rampant, runs through, and they have to invoke someone else all the time. So, they throw in Father Marin in a situation that I kind of still, after two viewings of essentially the same movie, but done in a town in Holland, I'm trying to figure out, I automatically assume that the Nazis in the beginning are obviously, like you just said, shooting a group of Jews, right?
That's in Dominion.
Well, no, it's in both.
Is that in both? I didn't remember that.
But so why the Nazi guy goes up to Father and he goes, these people, no, he doesn't have an accent. That's right. We don't.
You're right. I wrote down in my notes, Exorcist the Beginning, X-Men ass Holocaust shit. Yeah. It looks like the fucking opening scene in X-Men.
No, but it does, and I don't really even know if these are Jews because they are all part of his congregation. He says these
Oh,
people,
right. They've confessed
yes.
to him.
So
And
I
and
think
so the
they're
Nazis are like,
Catholics.
tell me which one did something wrong.
I think they're
Then
Catholics.
why are they in a concentration camp?
Well, they're not. They're in a town. You can see that they're in a town. The doctor is a Holocaust survivor who's a Jew.
I hate
girl.
these movies. The doctor, right, okay.
She is a Holocaust survivor.
And she's recast too, because in Exorcist the beginning, it's funny. Like Dominion was made first, and Paul Schrader cast like a French unknown as this doctor, and then Rennie Harlan's like, "I know what we need: a model. Yeah. Let's make the doctor hot."
Yeah, it's the GoldenEye girl from fucking GoldenEye, man. That's all she's done.
Because she was a model and a pop star in like Sweden or something, and then she's like been in a couple of movies.
Yeah, I don't think she's Swedish, but sure. Yeah.
Well, wherever the fuck she's from.
Well, it's an Italian last name, but I mean, you could be right. It doesn't make any difference. But yeah, yeah. So Schrader just goes for sort of an every woman quality. It's a little more affecting, You find out her story. She's just right, but instead. But Rennie Harlan gets Isabella Scorupco, and so she's got the numbers on her arm, and it's like, ooh.
And it's played like this weird, sexy thing. Like she lifts up her fucking sleeve to show him the concentration camp numbers on her arm, and it's like this sexy. She's showing some skin.
These movies are very confused because, now that you bring it up, those were not Jews in the beginning. Those were Catholics. So that's a scene of Catholics being killed, which happened because that was a crime too in the Holocaust. But it's very odd, though. It's really a way to insert Father Merrin into a scene.
All it's supposed to be is that the movie is going to have, both of these movies have the exact same plot as all the other movies, or the exact same character arc, where Father Merrin is going to lose his faith. So these opening Holocaust scenes of these movies are to show you how Father Merrin lost his faith. Like anyone fucking cares. And then he gets his faith back by the end of the movie. I posed this question on Twitter, Henry, and I'll ask you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any good prequel in the history of cinema? There's one on television, Better Call Saul.
Oh, wow. That's a biting question. It's not quite as narrow as I thought it was going to be what you were going to say. That's a very broad question. Really? That's your question?
I don't think there's a single one.
We've never done one that's been a good...
I can't think of it.
Ooh,
they're all pieces of shit because they're all unnecessary. No one needs to know any of the information in any of these prequels. I think the best thing you can do is do the Breaking Bad thing where you're going to take a supporting character and look back what was like. But I guess this movie's kind of doing the same thing. Oh, what's Father Merrin up to?
It's the same thing, which, by the way, I was going to ask you about El Camino, if you were going to watch that.
I watched it already. It was great.
I'm watching it after the show, so okay.
Sure.
Oh, all right. Okay. Like, good to hear. Now I want to talk about that, so forget it. Yeah. No, you're probably right. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that was a prequel that was actually better than the original or a sequel.
I'm not even asking. I'm not asking for it to be better.
I'm not asking, I'm telling.
No, I'm not asking for it to be better than the original. I'm just asking, name a prequel that's a competently made, entertaining movie.
The Thing.
What are you talking about? You mean the Mary Elizabeth Winstead one?
Yeah. It's competent.
Come on.
It's competent.
Okay, but is it good?
No.
Name me a good prequel.
No, I enjoyed that.
Some people on the internet are saying Final Destination 5, but I haven't seen it.
I like this. I didn't know. I thought you said you were going to.
No, okay. I put this.
What are you getting?
Let's see. Most people agreed with me, to be honest, dude.
Yeah.
Let's see. The first Purge, which we covered. That sucked.
The first Purge. Yeah, right. Correct.
Right, not the first Purge, the first Purge.
Yeah. Right, I had to think for a second. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay.
Yeah, there's a Cruel Intentions too. Someone said Red Dragon, which I said's not a prequel. It's a remake of Manhunter, which predated Silence of the Lambs.
It's true. If it was a prequel and you considered it a prequel, then it is great. But
Some people are saying Wonder Woman was a prequel to Batman v Superman.
Okay, all right. Yeah, now we're stretching. I think we're stretching.
Some people said Godfather 2, but it's a sequel as well.
Yeah, there's prequel elements in there, but no.
The best answer is my friend David Gallagher says X-Men First Class and Paranormal Activity 2, which are both like pretty good.
I like Paranormal. I like all the. I can't wait to cover those. I've seen all of them.
We should have just done it this month.
I didn't think about it. I want to do that next for our next horror coverage. Okay, I'm putting it out there. Our next horror franchise.
Really, I want to do Final Destination.
We'll play rock paper. I'm fine with either of those because I actually have only seen one or two of those Final Destination. So
I've only seen two of them. Yeah.
I'm writing it down. Either one of those or the next one. Anyway.
Okay, so Exorcist the beginning.
I agree with you. Nothing has been near. You're right.
One thing that bothered me is that everything is CGI. Everything in the world. There was no makeup team on this movie. They didn't shoot a single fucking landscape. Everything looks like PlayStation 2 graphics.
Yeah, very strange stuff. I found one of the weirdest things was the effects of the hyenas. Like
they look like cartoons.
Yeah, like we couldn't. I mean,
can I ask you a question though? Is this any worse than The Bear and the Revenant? I honestly think it's the same thing.
Such a prick. You know that's horseshit.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, you know that's horseshit.
It's not.
Do you like the bear in The Edge?
I do love the bear. Yeah. It's a real bear.
Bear. That's a great bear.
Bart the bear.
It is Bart the bear. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
This was his black sheep of a bear cousin was in The Revenant. Couldn't get it.
Yeah. Okay.
What's his name?
What?
What's his name? The bear in The Revenant. What's his name?
I don't fucking know. That's for you to know.
I thought you're supposed to come up with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Hardy? Is that who Tom Hardy played in that movie?
Essentially.
Okay, so they're in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah.
And
we're given very different explanations, by the way, in the two movies.
Okay, but the basic premise of both of these movies is they're in Africa and there's an archaeological dig happening amongst a group of African tribes people called the Turkana or something.
That's enough.
And they it's a church. It's an underground church that looks really fresh. So apparently this church was built in Africa and then immediately buried. And they don't know why, and they go down into the church, and it's evil and creepy. That's the premise of the movies.
That's right. And in the beginning, we're given a little bit more plot about why and how. And I think in the beginning, that's the one where we see that weird aftermath of a medieval battle. Am I correct?
I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, which I've never seen but heard.
Well, they said some crazy shit went on in the church, including, quote, 34 nuns having an orgy involving goats.
That was really good. I like that.
You think Freddy Krueger's mom was one of those nuns?
She would have had to. The time matches up.
Yeah.
Well, what I liked, Darcy in the beginning says a cool line, and I'll say that this was the only cool line in either movie.
I wrote down one line from this movie.
I did, but hold on. When he says that where the church is exactly where Lucifer fell from heaven and landed on earth. I gotta say, it's pretty cool. I was like, ooh, I like that idea. Does
the Catholic Church have exact coordinates on that event?
Catholic Church thinks it has exact coordinates.
Do they have the longitude and latitude on Lucifer's fall?
bullshit that I had to listen to for 12 years of my godforsaken early existence, you wouldn't even believe. At least be happy you didn't have Hebrew school, right? You didn't attend that.
I was asked if I wanted to, and I said no.
I wasn't asked. Yeah. Religion was a subject of every day. Do you know that? Do you know that? Not a lot of non-Catholic people know that. That it wasn't just that I was taught every Sunday.
No, I know that. It's like in school.
Yeah, it was like math, English, religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So yes, to answer your question, of course, there's fucking coordinates for all that shit. I wanted to point out, I did think it was very interesting. It was radically different, Rennie Harlin's take upon Marin losing his faith as to Paul Schrader's presumably original take. Whereas in Paul Schrader, he's just kind of a little disenchanted. Rennie Harlin has him like fucking drinking at a bar, and he's like all grizzled and shit. It's completely different, that take on
that is true.
Stellar.
In Dominion, it's more of a crisis of faith. Like, I don't know what I believe anymore. In Exorcist the Beginning, Marin is like, fuck God.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very different. It's very extreme. But let me hear your favorite line.
Everything is more extreme in Exorcist the Beginning. That's a good word for it. It's just like, oh, I mean, in Dominion, they find like a statue, like a stone statue of like a rotting corpse in the church.
Yeah.
And then in Exorcist the Beginning, they just find a rotting corpse, like strung up, still bleeding. And I don't know why it's been down there, but it's not actual blood anywhere. It's CGI blood. They find a fucking swastika carved into a guy's chest, invoking the Holocaust again. The nuns having the orgy involving goats. At one point, a woman gives one of the African tribes people gives birth, and it's just like a stillborn fetus covered in maggots.
Unbelievable, dude. This fucking movie, now I believe both movies had that featured in it, did they not?
No. And if it did, it was shot totally different.
Yeah, okay.
Exorcist the Beginning, like the purpose of the making of this movie was to make it grosser for audiences to digest.
And it really was.
And it was. It's this movie sucks, and it's gross, and it like. Hey, I wrote down this note. What am I referring to, Henry? Everyone is bleeding from their genitals in this.
I think you're referring to Isabella Scorupco when she looks down and feels blood in her vagina.
That's right. Yeah, but I feel like maybe that happened a few times. Maybe a dude bled from the dick or something.
Yeah, well, poor Alan. I'm calling him Alan Ford. Is that his fucking Bricktop? Let's just call him Bricktop. It's you, Turkish. He's the guy whose face is falling apart.
Right.
Yeah,
I hated that guy. He was disgusting. He was like this homeless wanderer. It's a very different from the equivalent character in Dominion. They made him white for one thing. But his fucking teeth look like, you know, the decorative corn that you buy around Thanksgiving?
Sure.
That's what it looks like. The kernels of that corn.
By the way, those are his actual teeth in real life. Brits don't floss.
Stop it. No, everything was fake in this movie. Nothing looked natural. It was like the movie was created on a fucking laptop.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the beginning like I said, I had seen it before. The only one of these I hadn't seen was Dominion of anything we covered, and I didn't remember it being this fucking extreme in its like just shock value for absolutely no reason at all.
But it's just punctuations. Like the movie itself is pretty dull and boring. But then like every 10 minutes you get a splash of CGI blood just to like gross you out for a second.
Yeah, and you also get the her name is too hard to keep saying over and over again. What's her name in the movie? It's Rachel in Dominion. I don't remember what it is.
Whatever. It's the girl. There's only one girl.
The girl doctor. The female character. Yeah, the hot doc. She gets the Linda Blair treatment at the end. We turn her into a demon.
That's right, which is different also from Dominion. A different guy.
Oh God,
Yeah,
it's
she turns
exhausting.
into a demon, and oh my god, there's that scene where she's crawling on the ceiling like in Exorcist 3, but it looks like trash.
Really, which is saying something, having it made 14 years later than, yeah, I just don't know what was going on with a lot of that. Oh, by the way, you called it. She's Swedish. She's Polish Swedish.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, her name's Sarah, by the way, the character.
Sarah in this one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes no sense. All right. Yeah. So we changed certain characters and then we didn't change them in other ones. All right.
And some
Yeah.
characters were good in Dominion and got heel turns in this
Ugh.
one, and it's very confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is. And watching them back to back, I mean,
Oh
was
my
even
god, it was interminable. It made me wish I'd seen Dominion first because I might have been
Yes.
able to look at it through fresher eyes, like as its own thing. Because as it stood, it was like I watched them 2 days in a row, and like
So did
when I
I.
was watching Dominion, I was like, oh, I'm just watching like a boring remake of a shitty movie that I just watched yesterday.
Yeah, I feel like I
It
wish
was torture.
I feel like Dominion would have benefited being viewed first for me, just because
And
I had
Exorcist, the beginning, it could have benefited from never being watched ever by anyone.
this is this is very true. Yeah, yeah. Dominion would have been, I think, more enjoyable because Paul Schrader, for all this movie's faults and its dullness, I think Paul Schrader still does a pretty decent job
And
of what
and I
he's
like
setting
Rennie
out to do.
Harlin. Rennie Harlin has made movies that I enjoy. And
Me too, but
this is an unenjoyable movie. And this is like kind of where his career went. 2 years after this movie, he made a movie called The Covenant with male witches. You ever see that
yeah,
movie?
oh,
It's
I know what you're talking
male
about.
teen witches. My favorite line of that movie, which I'll never forget as long as I live, is when one of the witches tells someone that he's going to make them his wiatch. But it looks exactly like this movie. Like everything is shot through like a blue filter, and it's CGI blood, and the landscapes aren't real. I mean, it's amazing. They shot on the same sets as Dominion. They had these sets built. So why am I looking at a layer of computer sand?
How about that great Aurora Borealis that happens at the end of Dominion for like 30 minutes?
Well,
that's nice.
Dominion. I'll cut Dominion a little bit of slack on its
Oh, me
effects.
too.
They only had $35,000 to finish the fucking movie.
That is so awful. I mean, that is so insulting.
You know
I mean,
what though? They could have not let him finish the movie. They really could have done that.
but why didn't Paul Schrader just? Why wasn't he just like, fuck you? Like, what is he? Didn't even need to be a part.
But I
mean,
think
what-
it's like an ellipsis on a career. Like you've gone that deep. You filmed an entire movie and it's just never going to be finished and it's never going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
That must be so frustrating.
And maybe Paul Schrader is like, because like I could think there's plenty of directors who would just be like, go fuck yourself. I'm sure Friedkin would be one of those type of personalities, and Schrader is probably like a nice guy in real life. I've actually read that. I haven't heard he's a dick. Have you heard he's a dick?
I don't know. I can't imagine the guy who wrote Taxi Driver is the nicest guy.
You never know.
I mean, that's a
man.
fucking misanthropic movie.
Well, but that doesn't mean that he is like a misanthropic guy or he's like an unpleasant person. All I mean is that
Yeah, I guess Martin Scorsese's a nice guy.
he's a pretty nice guy, despite his. I did see that now, by the way, from last week when you pointed that his Avengers comments.
Not
about,
cinema.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah. All right. Well,
Well, what do you give this Exorcist the beginning?
oh, I have to say, it's the first one that I'm giving a 1 star.
I am as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I am giving my MVP in this one in the beginning because I liked him. That is Stellan Skarsgård.
Boy, I'm looking through my options here, Henry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's slim pickings.
I understand.
I'll give my MVP. I hate all these fucking people. I really do. I fucking hate this movie. I like David Bradley. He's a fun character actor. It was nice to see him.
What was he? Who did he play?
He was just around. He played, Filch, the groundskeeper in Harry Potter.
Oh, I see who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. LVP?
Skarsgård.
Fine. Fuck
Stellan fucking Skarsgård, the star of a $50 million budgeted movie. Are you kidding me?
I got no problem with middle-aged men who are balding being stars of movies.
It's not a matter of that he's middle-aged or balding. You could put Richard Schiff at the center of this movie. He's got charisma. Stellan Skarsgård is a charisma vacuum.
That is so not fair.
And he's a talented actor, but he's background, man. 5th or 6th build, never higher.
Really? I don't know, man. I mean, he's like the villain in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Fincher one, and he's so fucking awesome in that.
I don't even remember him being in that movie. And in that one, fine, he's the villain. Fine.
Okay. All right.
He's not your hero.
Well, my LVP is not something I'm doing just to say, oh, I hate your pick.
No, but think about this. Think about this, Henry. I really want you to think about this.
All right.
How much more watchable, how much less boring would these movies be with a more watchable male lead?
Well, we disagree on his presence, so I don't think they'd be any more watchable with anybody else. I mean, I think they're as good as they're going to get.
I really don't think so, man.
Okay,
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay, that's not fair. As a top billing here? All right. So PSH is Father Marin.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's these movies. Exorcist the Beginning would still be a CGI'd out, annoying piece of shit. But Philip Seymour Hoffman at the center of Dominion prequel to The Exorcist, that's a significantly more watchable movie. That goes up 1 point in the grading.
All right. Fair enough. I was actually thinking quite in the box. I was trying to think of like major, massive movie stars in
You don't even have to. Think about this. Philip Baker Hall.
Come on. Philip Baker Hall. They would have put him in this role.
No, but I wouldn't have thought they would have put Stellan Skarsgård in it either.
All right. I just didn't... I didn't think he was out of place.
What about TV actor? What was popular at the time? Maybe they make him younger. Maybe it's even like if they put like Matthew Fox from Lost in this movie. That would be better.
No,
it would. It would.
God, talk about a vacant lot.
He's more watchable.
In the words of Ron Burgundy, I'm going to.
But how about Peter Krause? Put Peter Krause in this movie. He's a boring middle-aged white guy. Much better.
He'd be good.
Thank you. All right, Dominion prequel to The Exorcist.
Wait, my LVP is Rennie Harlan.
Oh, that's fucking fine. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Check this out. My LVP is Morgan Creek for making this movie instead of just finishing the fucking first one.
I agree. I mean,
no need for this. Exorcist the Beginning might be the least necessary movie in the history of time because they already made it with the same actor.
Yeah, and Morgan Creek, you can take that one. I'm taking Rennie Harlan because he just does nothing with this material except fucking makes it worse. And anyway, my MVP?
It's the reverse of elevating bad material. He really does. He takes bad material and he drags it down further.
Yeah, I exactly right. I think you're exactly right.
Superhero count.
Oh shit! Yes, yeah. All right. Da 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 da. All right. Here's a 5 count. Stellan Skarsgård and Thor.
Right.
Playing
Solveig.
That's right. James Dawsey, Agent Carter. He plays Edwin Jarvis in that in Endgame. Ralph Brown, who played the Sergeant Major.
Oh, that's right. I was excited that he was in Endgame because it was like the first time they'd like put one of those TV Marvel characters in a movie. It was fun to see him.
If it's the only time.
I think that I can think of, yeah.
Yeah. Ralph Brown, who we covered in The Great Alien 3.
Great.
He's the sergeant major in this one, and he is also an Agent Carter, playing Dr. Fenhoff.
Ooh, sounds like a evil scientist. I'm gonna say evil scientist on that one.
I'm gonna say you're right. Ben Cross, who was in this movie playing a character named Sommelier.
I loved that his name was Sommelier. Why the fuck was his name Sommelier? Was he picking out wines for people?
Just going to say that. It's very odd. Very odd. It's spelled S-E-M instead of S-O-M, but that's not how they say it. They say it sommelier?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he was in the 2012 TMN Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV cartoon playing Dr. Ministrong. That
sounds good.
That's real good. And your boy David Bradley was in, I didn't know this, I don't remember this, must have done it when we did Harry Potter, but he was in Captain America the First Avenger playing the Tower Keeper.
Oh, sure. Whatever. He shows up and stuff.
He does.
All right, so touching on Dominion briefly, we start Holland 1944.
Wait, I thought we just... That was very funny. Dan and I were on kind of different wavelengths there. I kind of thought he was trying to wrap up the show, and I thought that was like our coverage of both movies.
Well, we didn't grade or give MVP, LVP for Dominion.
Correct. That's where I thought you were going, and you just began with a plot summary.
Well, it's a different plot. I do want to talk about. I vastly preferred the Holocaust opening of this movie. Holland 1944, which features a pretty good evil Nazi in the Christoph Waltz vein, just capping motherfuckers willy-nilly. I was into it. And we see him just shooting motherfuckers in the head.
Capping Catholics, I guess we've established during the show.
Right. And instead of going to Nairobi, we're going to British East Africa, 1947, and we get a beautiful opening shot of the top of the church sticking out of the sand and the archaeological team working around them. It's amazingly a shot of actual sand and an actual structure and actual actors.
Yes. Well, that's Paul Schrader for you.
Yeah.
And, making the most. Yeah.
I mean, but basically it's the same thing. Some evil shit happens. There's they deal much more seriously with the African tribes people. I feel like in Exorcist the beginning, they're just a bunch of they're treated like they're savages. They barely speak the language. Yeah, where in this they're a civilization, and there's a theme of tension of imperialists coming in and encroaching on their territory.
Yeah, I agree. It's like an actual...
The Brits are kind of the bad guys.
Of course, as they were at the time for that anybody who lived in that section of the fucking world. And, I think this movie also, the actor who plays the main British guy, what the fuck is his name?
Granville?
Yeah. I like that actor, and I liked him in Dominion more because he's not given so much bullshit to do, and there's a marked difference when you take out him hallucinating and having visions as the reason he's killing himself, as in this one where he literally seems to just commit suicide out of guilt for just shooting a tribes person for absolutely zero reason, and I like that. I mean, I this movie is more serious, it's trying to be more serious, because there's just less phantasmagorical shit happening. And
everything's sort of treated on the level. Until it goes totally insane at the end when someone is possessed. And it's probably why Morgan Creek didn't like the movie, because it generally is just a character-based drama that we're trudging through. And on that point, it's a little bit boring, the way 7 years in Tibet is boring. But that's what we're doing in this movie. We have a side character in this named Cheche, who And that could be treated. Exorcist the beginning would have gone nuts with that character if they included him, because he's this I mean, how do you even describe it?
I
He's
don't
like
know,
a
he's
physically deformed.
malformed. Yeah, he's like a deformed person with like a fucking weird face that they've heavily made up. And it could be like, you're right. I mean, his head, his head would be spinning in 17 scenes if he was in the beginning. And it's
They would have fucking bullied him. Like in this movie, it's like the tribesmen are bullying him, and he's treated as this like one pure person amongst this war who just doesn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah,
and they want to bring him into like the doctor's office, but they have to do it under cover of night because like no one likes this kid.
Yeah,
I'm also fascinated by this actor Billy Crawford. I'd like to read his biography on IMDb.
Go ahead.
At an early age, he was discovered. He definitely wrote this himself. At an early age, he was discovered while dancing in the top of the bowling alley. He then became part of an afternoon show called That's Entertainment in the Philippines. He then had the name of Billy Joe, but he changed it recently to Billy Crawford. He moved back to the United States during his teenage years and started a career in music. He is now performing mostly in the UK, sometimes visiting schools too to do a gig. That's his biography.
That is awful. That poor man.
I love him.
That poor freak. Cheche.
So I found him very likable, and
well, you're supposed to.
Right, of course, and he could, because he's the one that gets possessed by Pazuzu, and that does sort of mean something because you want him to be okay, probably more than you care about any other character in the movie.
Well, look, if I may posit something, the reason they picked this character, it's a very typical Catholic thing where I'm sure Paul Schrader, having seen First Reformed and all this kind of stuff, is very either religious or has got some kind of Martin Scorsese sort of.
All of his movies have Catholic themes in them.
Right. So
he's
is
definitely a tortured Catholic, that guy.
Yeah, so this is definitely a movie where he.
By the way, First Reformed. How about Ethan Hawke as Father Merrin?
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Is Father Merrin in First Reformed? That's why he's going through all
Holy
that shit.
First Reformed is a sequel to Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
that's why he's so tortured about the environment. He's guilty about digging up the Sahara.
Yeah, he ages about as quickly as Max von Sydow, too.
But I think picking up on the Bible thing, I think Schrader goes for the old thing with like Jesus and the leper, that whole thing, and the unfortunate people, right. And that's how they get Cheche, 100% is why they get a character like that. Who it's straight out of like New Testament fucking scripture shit, and it's a little lazy and a little exploitative. But then again, it is The Exorcist, so who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But.
And it's just like everything is dialed back in this movie. In Exorcist the beginning, like you're supposed to want Father Merrin to like fuck this hot doctor. In this movie, they're just colleagues. And at the end of the movie, they come to a mutual understanding, and he kisses her on the cheek, and that's like the emotional ending of the film.
You're right, and there's a little bit of romantic tension in Dominion, but not much. It's just it's very subtle. It's quiet. It's an adult.
I actually liked her. I thought she was a pretty good actor.
Great.
Yeah,
I agree.
I looked her up on IMDb. She's been in like nothing. After Dominion came out, she doesn't have another credit for like 8 years.
Was she doing anything in France? Maybe.
Maybe on the stage.
I like her. She's like a very kind of just naturalistic kind of. She's not like a crazy knockout. She's very beautiful, but she's not like a
She looks like a person.
Yeah. And I like her demeanor and everything. She's cool.
Yeah.
But
the special effects are unfinished in Dominion, and I would say I'm giving the movie a lot of leeway on that, but there is one shot of a hyena being eaten by a bull. That's one of the worst things I've ever seen in a released movie.
Well, in a released movie. Well, that's one of the things that was so weird about the movie and the CGI. It's like, couldn't they just at the least just get fucking footage from like a fucking...
Sure, yeah, just show me like a nature footage for a second.
Get an Afro, just get PBS. It's all publicly funded. They don't even have to pay them. Just be like, Paul Schrader could be like, "Can I just get some footage from?"
I'd rather be looking at stock footage that looks like it doesn't belong than weird computer graphics of a bull going like, "Whoops, dead."
Yeah. And actually, that would have been kind of cool. That would have been like added to like a dreamlike effect of the movie if Schrader would have gone with like all of a sudden we cut to like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom footage,
or just cut out the animal shit. I don't need it. Like the hyena stuff is not interesting in either movie.
So bad that I have Planet Earth. I think you own Planet Earth. We've watched our share of this stuff. Did those things? They didn't even look like hyenas.
No.
When they called them hyenas, I was like literally going, "That's not a hyena."
Cartoon hyena technology has really improved in the last 15 years, judging by the new Lion King.
The cartoon hyena technology is leaps and bounds over the 15-year gap.
Yeah,
it's really amazing.
They've done more work on that than like the ecosystem.
They really have. They really have. I'm looking forward to the next release of the next cartoon hyena project that's coming out.
There'll probably be one.
My Life as a Cartoon Hyena. Yeah.
That sounds like it could be nominated for Best Animated Short Film.
I think it already is.
Yeah. Okay, so this fucking movie, what do you give this?
I almost want to be nice to Paul Schrader and like give it a 3.
You can't. I wanted to. Actually, you know what? I enjoyed the first 15 minutes of this movie so much that I was like, what if this is like a 4? What if this is the second best Exorcist movie? I was like feeling this movie, and then it got real boring real fast to the point where like once I was like 35 minutes in, I was like, how much longer is this? How much longer is my life going to be watching Stellan Skarsgård wandering the desert?
Wait, do it like Lieutenant Kinderman would say to his wife watching this movie.
I like this movie. It's pretty fun. It's pretty, but end already.
By the way, I wondered why SAG didn't give a credit to George C. Scott's gut.
Speaking of SAG, 3. George C. Scott.
His stomach needed its own agent in that his stomach took up 1/4 of every frame. Did you notice that?
He's a big boy.
He is a big man. All right, no, I'm Dominion's a 2.
Yeah, watching him next to Brad Dourif, it was like watching fucking Hagrid standing next to the kids in Harry Potter.
I thought he was going to eat him. I was like, I don't know what he's afraid of. He could just pick Brad Dourif up with like his left patent hand.
Yeah, he could just like unlock his maw and fucking open wide. No, it's a 2.
I'm gonna eat you up. I'm gonna eat you up.
It's for sure a 2. Who's your MVP of this one?
Well, I did give it to Paul Schrader.
I like Gabriel Mann.
He's my LVP.
Oh my God, he's Father Francis in this movie. I actually think he would have been more of a. I'm surprised they let him go for the beginning. It seems like it should be switched. Like James Darcy's a little subtler. He should maybe be in Dominion. Gabriel Mann is more of like a
creepy.
Yeah, he's got a quality about him, and I like him as a TV actor. He was in Revenge. He's been in a lot of films too. I remember him. I liked him as Joaquin Phoenix's roommate in the underrated film Buffalo Soldiers.
I like that film.
Yeah.
I don't remember him in that at all.
He's the dude that's Joaquin's roommate, and then he has a heel turn at the end. He was like working for the military brass the whole time.
Oh, wow. I really want to see that movie again. I love that movie. I remember the ending really blowing me away with the musical score and the building on fire and all that shit. Yeah, that's a good film.
And he like falls out of a 5th floor window and survives. Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie since I lived in Pittsburgh. I got to see that again. Anyway. The only reason I'm giving it to Gabriel Mann is basically because I preferred James Darcy in the same role. I mean, honestly, that was kind of it. I mean, he's all right, but I liked most of the casting and I liked how the actors were in their roles better the ones that carried over.
MVP man, LVP Skarsgård.
Wow. All right. It's just on a Swedish tear tonight.
That's right. Who's the what's the superhero count in Dominion prequel to The Exorcist?
Oh, only one, and that is your man, Gabriel Mann.
Oh, nice.
Played, this was interesting to me, Bruce Banner in an Avengers cartoon and Wolverine and the X-Men cartoon. Carried over, Bruce Banner.
Interesting.
And currently, I guess, I haven't watched this and I won't, but the new show, Batwoman,
I watched the pilot. He's in that?
Miss Elliott he plays.
All right. I might not have noticed. But I watched that pilot, Henry, and it was poor. Oh, by the way, for
isn't used enough in that context.
For fans of my complaints about accents on the franchise, if you want to hear one of the worst accents you've ever heard in your life, Ruby Rose on this new Batwoman show. It is astonishing.
She's Australian, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bad.
She's certainly not from Gotham City, I'll tell you that. It's so bad. It's like they'd have to know it's bad, and they like I think like just collectively the makers of Batwoman decided like she looks right for the role. She's known enough that people might watch because of her. Listen, she can't do an accent, but we're just gonna have to overlook that.
Oh,
that had to be a conscious decision.
They were just all in too far, and it was just not worth it.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Okay, why did we talk about Ruby Rose real quick?
She was in Resident Evil: The Final Chapter.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Remember, she died in that great scene where she got pulled back into that like wind turbine or whatever.
No.
You don't remember those huge fans when they're like breaking into the facility?
I mean, if it didn't involve the laser room, I don't really remember that stuff.
It's in the last one, the one with dragons.
Laser room forever, man.
Laser Hallway is the greatest MVP in the history of the franchise.
When those are on TV, I just leave it on now since we've watched just to wait for the Laser Hallway.
Hell yeah, I think it's in like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, I know.
Off the top of my head, it's definitely in 1, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, that was fun to cover.
It sure was, Henry. Let's talk about it. The end of the show.
Wrapping up.
Let's rank the Exorcist movies.
Done it already.
Okay, I want to say that my ranking of favorite Exorcist movies, this isn't always the case, but my ranking is definitely different than it would be if I'm judging them as films.
Oh.
So
mine coincided. Mine coincided.
My official ranking is going to be the favorite ranking, and then after that, I'll maybe give you the best.
Why don't you do your favorite first, and then we'll do the second together? Because mine's the same.
My favorite Exorcist movies, bar none, is the worst one's Exorcist the Beginning, second worst is Dominion, then Exorcist III, then Exorcist II, The Heretic, then The Exorcist.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. All right.
And that's from 5 to 1.
And that's in descending order of release year.
Almost beginning, and they're in descending order of when they were made.
Yeah.
But Exorcist the Beginning came out first.
Right. Sorry.
Okay, and now here's how they actually are in terms of quality.
All right,
number 5.
All right, my number 5 and the worst Exorcist movie. I'm sorry to do this. I can't ever take this again, and that is Exorcist II, The Heretic.
That's ridiculous. The worst one is Exorcist the Beginning. That stays the same.
That's my number 4.
I feel like I want to go with just my favorite. I don't know. I guess I'll still say I'll go with 2 for the. It is the second worst, but it's my second favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Clarity has been established.
Mm-hmm. Number 3.
So important. Number 3 for me is The Exorcist III.
For me, it's Dominion.
My number 2 is Exorcist Dominion.
And
which,
Dominion
by the
prequel to The Exorcist.
Dominion prequel, that is just a 2-star movie, by the way. I don't know if we even said that.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
The Exorcist 3 is number 2 for me.
And all right. And the best one is The Exorcist. This is one of the few
Skip
things.
them all. Watch The
Yep,
Exorcist.
yep,
That's an
yep.
amazing classic 5-star movie.
Got to agree.
And if you're like high and you're hanging out with friends, put on Exorcist 2 the beginning, but do not hesitate to fast forward the boring parts.
Wait, you meant to say Exorcist 2 the Heretic, not the
Oh,
beginning.
sorry. Exorcist 2 the Heretic is what I meant.
Oh,
Yes.
if you're high, it would be. I mean, that locust shit would be amazing.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I even said this personally about Child's Play because I found a nice resurrection towards the end of that in either Cult or Curse, whichever the non-asylum one was, the one in the house. Which one was that? Curse. Yeah, this really is a franchise that sucks. Overall, this first movie is a masterpiece. The rest of them don't even come close. I don't have a 3-star movie after the first movie. I got nothing.
Nor do I. No, fuck these movies.